1, 2, 3. We are not live, but we are alive, which we always say is very important. Gary, hello, YouTuber. We are going to get you to escape the chaos this week with some mindful stitching. Yes, all you will need is a needle and some thread and a little bit of fabric, and that's it. Now, if you want to get straight into that mindful stitching exercise, you can, of course, look at the time code below. What do we do here on the channel? The lovely Gary is the tutor. Me, I'm the student. You are the student. And we do a mindful creative practice every single week in our tea time tutorial. We load one every Friday. So please do make sure you hit the like button. If you like it, it goes ding, 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 and all the lights flash up. It's very exciting. Go and try it right now. And you can also leave a comment for us below, because that helps us get out to the algorithm, and then it helps other people find us and other people have joy. And that means that you're giving joy. We're giving joy to the world. So people think we're mad now, Gary. So for anybody who's still with us,
you're mad.
So bad. If anybody is still with us, then we are going to do a little bit of mindfulness right now. But as I say, you can just skip ahead. So lovely, Gary. Well, first of all, Gary said, what you got on your t-shirt?
Oh, Griffiths. I don't know. Wells Stevens from Friends. Oh, right, from Friends.
Yes.
Oh.
Rachel Griffiths, Rachel Weisz, Rachel Stevens, and Rachel from Friends. So they're all Rachels.
Ah. Oh, I know. My brain needs to click into that. Where did you get that from?
My friend bought me for my birthday. And you know something? I didn't get it, and I was really rude. And I just messaged back. I went, "You really shouldn't have." Because I thought it was like builders merchants or something. I didn't understand. I was like, why? I thought it was some random pound shop t-shirt that he'd found.
No,
that he was
really
sending to take the
clever.
mickey. And it was like builders merch. I was like, no, you really shouldn't have. And then he didn't reply, and I was like, and then I realized what it was, and he spent a fortune on this t-shirt because they're quite,
So
cheap.
clever.
And it said, it's because you're called Rachel. And I felt so bad.
He's at another level. He's at another level.
So Richard, thank you very much if you're watching this. Yes, thank you, Richard. I do appreciate it. Anyway, so lovely, Gary. Let's begin with our mindfulness chat before we get into our arty exercise. So I saw this chap today. We've mentioned him before. It's called Rich Roll. Have a look for him on Instagram, R-I-C-H and then R-O-L-L. I think he's on YouTube as well. It doesn't need my help. I think he's got about 900 million followers. But he's very inspirational. He openly admits that he was a workaholic, alcoholic, losing control of his life. It all fell to pieces. And now he's like on the road to freedom and having a fabulous time discovering himself. But he said something, and I love his videos because they always kind of draw you in. And he said, if you find in your life that it is falling to pieces, that you are stuck, you are stagnating, you are lost, you are out of control, you really don't know who you are anymore. He said, you know what I say? Congratulations, which you would not expect him to say. And he said, and I say congratulations is because that is life giving you the opportunity to change your life. That is the universe, that is your higher self, that is circumstances, however you want to put it, smacking you in the face with a wet fish going, what are you going to do? You've hit rock bottom. What are you going to do? And he said a lot of people sort of middle on in their lives and they just get through their lives. He said, but if you're lucky enough for everything to fall to pieces, which I know is a strange thing to say, this is your moment to create the life that you want. Because obviously things have fallen to pieces because it's been brick after brick after brick that has fallen away, and you've fallen down the chimney. That's a terrible analogy, but what he's saying is that obviously you've gone down several paths that have led to a dead end, that have led to you being rock bottom, whether that is through addiction or whether it's, through just not navigating your life, through not opening yourself to the possibilities of life. And I'm not judging anybody here and being judgmental, because let me tell you, I have been there in all of those things that I've just mentioned, and I have hit rock bottom. But the great thing is that when you hit the bottom, there is only one way you can go, and that is up, because you can't get any further down. When you're on that floor and everything has fallen away, you have to look at yourself. You have to do. If you don't, well, you're just going to wallow in that mud, and what a miserable life. So you have to look at yourself, and that is when you start implementing those changes bit by bit. We've talked about this before, step by step. But I just thought that was a great way to look at things, because I think, Gary, life can be so difficult, and there can be times when terrible things have happened and we find ourselves on the floor. And I just want to offer people encouragement to see that as an opportunity. And I know people are probably screaming at the screen right now, well, it's horrendous when that happens. Yes, it is. It is. It is. Terrible things happen, but you have to see it as an opportunity for growth, for expansion, for change, and start making those changes. And that's what he did, when he said he was a raging alcoholic. And he just woke up one day with no friends. He'd lost people around him, no money, whatever, and just was like, I have to change my life. And he is a great example of how you can change.
And as human beings, we don't take subtle indications to change. We need to have it bloody hard to make that change. And changes have to come from you. People might subtly, or subtle incidences might say, oh, you should change that. You should really try and turn that round. Yeah. Only when it's really, really bad do we, as an individual, I'd say 9 times out of 10, and I with you, I've not that have I hit rock bottom? I've had times when I'm completely unhappy and I want things to change, and so that's maybe my rock bottom, and then I have made those changes. But I think you have to get into a point where, like, no, I'm not putting up with anymore, or I'm not doing this, or I don't like myself in the mirror, or any of those scenarios that actually make you then change. And so, yes, I think that's a great, you might not be able to say thank you, congratulations, when it's actually happening, maybe that day or a few days. But once you sort of start to just lie there, catch your breath, and then just say, wow, if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't be now making this decision. I've got nothing else to lose, which is a great, we all say that, well, I've got nothing to lose. If we were in that position, that again is thank you for that, because I've got nothing to lose. It's making me go forward. It's making me make a change. And so, yeah, that was really quite a nice thing to do, really, isn't it?
Very much so. And I think as well, it's ongoing what you said there, Gary. I think it's really important in those moments to look back through your life at all the other moments when you've been struggling, as you've said, or you're at rock bottom, or not quite rock bottom, but in a bad place or whatever, and then look at the good that has happened afterwards. It's like you're being course corrected through your life. And you can always look back on things, can't you, and go, that happened for that reason. I mean, I know some people hate that phrase, everything happens for a reason, but I think it does. And I think sometimes the reasons are not good, but they're to course correctors. And I think there is only so long sometimes that you can go along that route, like he did with the alcoholism. There is only so long you can keep bashing your head against the wall until you go, I can't take this anymore. I can't take this anymore. And that's the point, as he said, congratulations. You finally hit that point. Now start changing your life. Now start listening to your higher self and making those changes. So just try and see it as a positive. Although I know it's difficult. I know it's very difficult. But for anybody out there, who is having one of those moments right now, sit back, breathe. Things will get better. Listen to Bruce Springsteen in one of his songs. In one of his songs, hard times come and hard times go. Hard times come and hard times go. And I think he says it like 5 times. But he's making a very solid point that in life, that's what happens. Hard times come and they go. They come and they go. You just have to learn. There you go. I'll be the person in your own story. Right. So there you go. That's our life lesson for today. So look, Gary. No, we throw out these lessons like they're so easy, don't we? So easy.
No.
Oh, just change your life.
No.
But it's just about opening your eyes and making that change. So lovely, Gary. Today we are going to continue with some mindful stitching. Now we must give a shout out to the lovely Michelle in Scotland, because yes, she loved our other tea time tutorial, which was, I've got it here actually, it was the spiral that we did. Yeah. Look out for that. I'll put a link below, or I'll put a link in the thing to the other tea time tutorial we did. But she went on. She was so inspired by this that she went to our online shop, craftymonkies.com video store, and she actually downloaded one of your cloth stitch journal classes where you were
Yes.
sewing.
Yeah.
And there's have a look in the shop, because there are lots of other Gary classes, but so do have a look. I'll put a link below to that if you are so inspired that you want to carry on. But we're going to sort of carry on, not with the spiral, but a different technique today, aren't we, Gary?
Yes. Okay. Right. Let's go to the journal. So
Yes.
this is, so there's a couple online. We've got a couple. There's a mindful stitch journal, or there's this doodle stitch journal. So this is about doodle stitching. So this is about, which, and I open my book, it's a cloth journal, but in the journal it's got all these pages, and in the video it's got all the ideas of just doodling with stitches or bits of paint, bits of collage, but it's basically it's around sewing, but doodling with sewing. So we don't have to sew to make a garment, we don't have to sew it to create anything. It can just be just stitch for fun, or just to take your mind off things. So as you said, we did the spiral idea. What we're going to do is we're going to do this like little woven idea here. We're going to just do, it's actually built up with a series of just running stitches, and then you're going to thread almost like a shoelace through the running stitches to create even more pattern. And to do that, now it takes a little bit of concentration, a little bit of sort of mind measuring. That's what I like to call it, mind measuring, where you have to sort of think, oh, that stitch has to be running in one after the other at the same distance. Okay, let's put that there in front of us. So I've got myself a piece of fabric. I've really, because on camera it looks better, I've got white and black, but you could have whatever you wanted, as in colors that you use. So I'm not saying it's got to be this color. I've got a piece of, just a piece of white felt, but it could be a piece of calico, could be a piece of cotton. It could even be stitching into a tea towel, which, as we were looking online the other night, actually tea towels are becoming really on trend for things to make things with, garments, bags, all sorts of things. So if you've got an old tea towel, you can start stitching into the tea towel. I've got some perlé thread. Now, let me find the spool. So perlé thread is slightly thicker. It's almost like a fine wool. And if all you've got is wool, then use wool. It's a cotton thread, and it comes on a little spool like this, and it's called perlé. But you might have a skein of embroidery thread, which is probably called DCM cotton, something like that you could use as well. If you haven't got any of that, not got any wool or anything, if you've just got ordinary sewing thread, you can use that as well. Anyway, I've got a reasonably sized needle, which has got a reasonable size eye in it. Because it's slightly thicker, you're not going to get that wool or that embroidery thread through a fine needle. You're going to use the whole thickness, and you're going to put it through a reasonably sort of an eye that you can see. I only thread enough to just go past my elbow, because you don't want loads and loads of thread, because you'd just be continually pulling that through. I'm going to just put a knot in the end of it, just maybe a couple of knots. One, a knot, and that's just to sort of start me off, to anchor me and just get me started. So I've just got a little knot. So I'm going to just run, they're going to run a straight line of running stitches. So running stitch, we're going to start from the back, I'm going to come in about an inch in, and I'm going to just run a running stitch. So I'm just going to do stitches that are evenly spaced apart. So the same distance to the stitch is the same distance that goes underneath. So I'm going to do a stitch, and then the same distance underneath and through. Now, that's a bit of the mind measuring. That is where you have to look and concentrate, and just take your mind into the distance and how straight you're sewing. Now, if you need a little prompt, you could almost just draw a little pencil line, or a little, like just a very fine line for you to follow, if that helps you. Or if it what it might be that if you go wibbly wobbly, it might bother you, and then that might make you anxious. So if that helps you and stops you feeling anxious, you can draw a line to begin with. But the idea is not to worry that the stitches may be not perfect, because they won't be first time. If you've never really sewn before, you haven't done this before, they're not going to be perfect. You know, like me, I sew a lot. And so I'm not saying I'm perfect. I have my bad days with sewing, I really do. But you know, I probably can, with not so much concentration, I can get my stitches quite evenly spaced apart. So I'm going to just continually go along. And some of you probably have had quite a lot of experience. You're already saying, Gary, one of those stitches is slightly out of line. And I can see that too. But because I'm in my mindful zone, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to take it all apart. I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to go and let that little stitch be slightly wonky. It's fine. I'm going to continue, going to get down to the bottom like that. How are you getting on, Rachel? You following me?
Yes, I am. And do you know what? I think you're going to be quite impressed with my little stitches, actually.
See, practice makes perfect, isn't it?
It does. It does.
That's
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, nice.
And also, it's think about your tension. Don't let it pull up too tight. Just keep that tension nice and sort of like nice and even. And there we go. So I'm just getting to the bottom, and then I'm going to just put the last stitch behind. I'm going to come around, and then I'm just going to just create a knot to hold it into position.
I mean, what I like about this is learning. You know, as I've always said, the one thing with me is that I'm really impatient.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually learning way more patience. I'm coming on leaps and bounds with my patience. I used to be very, very impatient, but that's a really important skill to learn is patience, because it's good in life, and good for your creative endeavors. Right, there you go. So I've done
There we
my.
are. So what I suggest is that just knot that off from behind. So just create a knot at behind, and then you should have still got some thread left.
Yes.
Like your ring. What ring's that you've got on there, Rachel? It's a big, very big
Very
ring.
nice. This one, I think I found this in like a little outside crafty market, and I think it was like £4 or something.
Massive acrylic. It's made of acrylic. Yeah, that's lovely. I like that.
I love
Bling ring, big ring.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's knotted. Lovely. So have you got another piece of thread there on another needle there or something? Yes. So you're going to take a strand off. That's it. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to just weave this through, but we've got to make it even. And as we're gently pushing it through, this is a really good, actually, it's a really good way of actually testing your tension and keeping your tension nice and loose. So I'm coming in from the right, or if you're left-handed, you might want to come in from the left coming in. But we're just going to go underneath that stitch, and you're just going to pull the thread through, but we're going to use our thumb just to hold that like that.
Yeah.
That's it. Stop there. Stop there. Lovely. And then we're going to then weave. So now we're going to come in with the other direction. So now we're going to come from left under to the next stitch down. And we use our thumb just to let that almost like be a little loop like that. Can you see I've created a little loop like that? Lovely, Rachel. Fine. And then we're just going to repeat that. So we're going to go backwards and forwards. But the idea is not to give it too much tension. You're just giving it enough so that you're going to create that little, almost like a little snake running down the ladder. Like so. Just keep going backwards and forwards. But of course, the skill is not pulling it so tight that you lose it. So if you pulled it and suddenly it gets stuck and you pull it, you could pull all of them and they all go out of line. So, but that's looking good, Rachel. You're doing
you laugh
fine.
too hard as you say that. Honestly, Gary. Rachel, that's looking good.
No, that's fine. Try and keep them as even as possible. So that's it.
I love it.
So you've got even loops. So this is real concentration stuff to get that to work. It's just it's just a doodle. It's just like, imagine that this piece of thread and your needle, it's just like a pen. You've just drawn a line or you've done a series of dots on a pad, and now you're joining those dots up, but you're joining the dots up with a little wavy line. I bet mine have got larger as I've got to the bottom, I think. Maybe. You can always slightly tweak them if you want to. You can slightly move them around. As long as it's not too tight, that should work all right. Yeah, that's okay. There, we get to the bottom. Okay. Whoops. That nice and even. Now, there's the needle. There we are. Now, what you can do, You're happy with that? You can reposition any of that, Rachel, if you want to. So you can just tweak them a little bit. That's it. Nice. The top one.
Yeah.
There you go. Fine. So just at the bottom, you can just snip the bottom there. Just snip that. Now, how much of that? No.
Ooh.
How? No. So the pink at the bottom, how much have you got left on that end of that pink? Oh, yeah, quite a bit. Right. I go and rethread that back to your needle. Go and put that back onto the needle. Put that back on. So I'm going to just show you another little thing that you can do.
Okay.
Okay, so you've threaded it. So you've got enough now to sew with, have you? Like that? Have you got?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well done. Okay, so what I'm going to show you, so what you can do is you can anchor this, so this wavy line, you can now anchor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in underneath, and I'm just going to come up by, I'm going to bring this right up to the screen so you can see. So I've gone underneath and I've come up just by that little mound. Imagine that's like a little mound.
Firstly,
and I'm just coming up underneath. I'm not pulling too tight. And then I'm just going to do a little stitch over that mound.
Yeah.
And pull through. And now there's a little, can you see there's now a little stitch holding that one there in place?
Yes.
Like that. Then I'm going to go over to the other side and I'm going to come on the inside there, coming out through here. Like that, not pulling too tight. And then I'm going to go over and down through like that. So I'm holding down. So now each of these little stitches is holding that in place. And now come back over this side, inside, and over the mound and through. Now, we're actually creating now, this is an embroidery stitch, not just a doodle. This is serious stuff, Rachel, a serious embroidery stitch.
Okay.
That we're creating. So it's a bit like, the technique would be called couching. So couching is laying a thread down and then catching that thread down. So the couch thread is the wibbly wobbly thread. We've woven it through the running stitch, and now we're just couching it down. So we're doing couching. So not only are we doodling, are we concentrating, are we just taking our mind into what we're doing, we're actually learning a new technique as well at the same time. So bonus. Yeah. How's it going for you, Rachel? How's it gone?
Yeah, loving it.
You have got it. I think, you say you don't do these skills, but they're latent in you. They are there.
They are.
But you said it. It's about patience. It's about actually just giving yourself a little bit of time to actually learn a technique or to play with a technique, and then just give it a go. So I'm just getting up nearly to the top. I'm probably going to run out of thread. If you run out of thread as you're going up, what you can do is don't keep going, just stop, and then you can attach another bit of thread underneath or with another little knot, and then you can do that. So lovely. So you've managed to catch it down. I think the back should be quite pretty as well. So you've got nice little zigzags on the back as well. Yes. Lovely. So hopefully our little viewers will be able to see that little technique of both the running stitch, the meandering little piece of thread, which is going to be woven through, and then the couching technique, which is then the little stitch just to hold it all in place.
Fun.
Fabulous.
Yeah, really,
well
really
done.
Nice. And nice to do. And as we say, it's, I always think that sometimes my things look better in real life than they do on camera, because in real life, this green is really popping with this purple, with this pink, and then the cream is looking lovely. And I love the shape of the thread. On camera, it doesn't look that great, but in real life, but once again, I was sort of sitting there thinking that if I'd had that with me sitting in front of that mountain, I could have just done that for hours rather than just looking at the mountain. I could have actually done some sewing at the same time.
Well, I think looking at the mountain is very restful and very peaceful. But there are times when we're on journeys or where we've got time in our hands, and we might be fed up of looking out the window and it might be in the evening, or we're on a plane or something like that. This little doodle journal, which if you've got pages already put in it, and all you need is some thread and a couple of needles. They might not, if you're on a plane, you might not be allowed the scissors, but there are some things that you can get just to cut the thread, or just pre-cut the thread ready. And then you could just spend your journey, your time, bit of spare time, just filling out a doodle little sketchbook, but it's all about stitches.
Yes. And there's my little sketchbook coming together. Look, my two. You can't see. You can't see the spiral on there, but I loved that in real life. That pink. But there you are. There's my thing of sketch. So I could take that with me anywhere I went. Lovely. Right. Let's bring us back. There we are. Well, again, just a lovely practice. And as you say, Gary, we've actually learnt an embroidery technique there as well. What's it called? Couching.
Yeah, so we just did a simple running stitch to start with. So we had to do that mindful measuring. So we had to use the measuring in our mind. And then we wove in another piece of thread, and then we did couching, because once it's woven or it's laid down, we then had to couch it. We then had to catch it to couch it down. So yeah, quite a few techniques there to get that little design, that little doodle.
Yeah. Lovely. And who knew, before today, I thought the only couching was what I was doing looking at that mountain. I'm a very good coucher. I'm a very good coucher. Happy lay on a couch anytime. Anyway, lovely, Gary. Thank you so much for that. Really enjoyable practice. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.